A judge ridiculed Elon Musk during the proceedings, only to be taken aback as Musk dismantled the prosecution's case, piece by piece. The courtroom in San Jose, California was filled to capacity. Onlookers, legal experts, and reporters occupied the wooden benches, anticipating what they believed would be a standard corporate lawsuit. However, today was not merely an ordinary lawsuit. The clash unfolded between Elon Musk and the Federal Regulatory Commission. What are the stakes? A vast sum of money. A conflict regarding business independence and regulation has evolved into a much larger issue. There are those who believe this case might establish a benchmark that could transform corporate law in the United States. Some simply desired to witness Musk brought down a notch, his vast empire subjected to stricter governmental oversight. At the judge's bench, Judge Ronald Beckett, a seasoned figure in the legal arena, reclined in his chair, his expression teetering on the edge of amusement. He was recognized for his straightforward demeanor, a figure who had dedicated years to overseeing cases that involved major corporations. Yet this was Elon Musk. He observed Musk, who occupied the defendant's table in his typical demeanor, at ease yet attentive, hands clasped with an inscrutable expression. Without any flashy attorneys by his side, he stood alone, devoid of a powerful legal team murmuring advice in his ear. Musk had taken an unexpected step. He chose to represent himself, a daring decision. Some might consider it audacious. Beckett let out a breath through his nostrils, holding back a grin. "Mr. Musk, are you certain you wish to proceed without legal representation? This case is exceptionally technical." A soft whisper spread across the courtroom. The narrative had already been set as a clash between Musk's hubris and the U.S. government. The notion that he could face off against a team of top-tier government lawyers single-handedly was almost comical. Musk merely inclined his head. "I believe I can handle it." A soft laugh echoed from the prosecution table. Thomas Langford, the chief legal mind for the Federal Regulatory Commission, shared a meaningful look with his fellow attorneys. Musk's bravado was amusing, yet they all understood the inevitable outcome. Langford rose, fastening his suit jacket with a deliberate motion. "If it pleases the court, may I have a moment?" Beckett acknowledged with a nod. "Continue." Langford strode to the center of the courtroom, his voice resonating with the refined confidence of someone who had triumphed in countless cases. "Esteemed audience, we gather today as Mr. Musk seems to hold the conviction that he stands beyond the reach of regulation. He is convinced that his enterprises can function independently, free from scrutiny and responsibility, as if the regulations that govern every other business in America do not pertain to him." He glanced at Musk, a faint smile beginning to appear. "While we certainly acknowledge Mr. Musk's significant impact on technology and innovation, it is important to remember that the law must be upheld. Everyone is subject to this. Today, we will demonstrate that Tesla, SpaceX, and other ventures have consistently overlooked federal guidelines, prioritizing profits over the well-being of individuals." The judge acknowledged with a nod. "Mr. Musk, what do you have to say?" Musk remained seated for the moment. He paused for a moment, his fingers grazing his chin, as if weighing the value of the effort before him. He gradually stood up, nonchalantly straightening his blazer. His voice carried a serene, measured quality. "Your Honor, I stand before you not out of a belief that I am beyond the law. I believe the law ought to prioritize the needs of the people, rather than the reverse." A murmur of whispers rippled through the audience. Musk proceeded, his voice steady and deliberate. "Regulation holds significant importance. I see your point. However, when regulations serve to hinder innovation instead of safeguarding consumers, we encounter an issue. The regulations of my companies are under scrutiny for alleged violations. They were crafted for a realm that has faded away. They were crafted for sectors that have seen little change over the past 50 years. I am not disregarding the law. I am questioning if the law continues to fulfill its intended role." Beckett arched an eyebrow. "That appears to be a point of contention in the realm of legislation, Mr. Musk. This space is a courtroom." A subtle smirk danced across Musk's face. "Let's discuss the facts, then." Langford advanced once more, distinctly unamused. With all due respect, Mr. Musk, the evidence does not support your position. Yet Musk averted his gaze. Instead, he shifted slightly, locking eyes with the judge. Musk stated that the facts are on the verge of transformation. The atmosphere in the courtroom changed. There was a distinct change in the air. The smirk on Judge Beckett's face diminished ever so slightly, and even Langford's confidence appeared to falter. Yet, no one foresaw the imminent shift that was about to unfold. An oppressive stillness enveloped the courtroom. Musk stood firm, his eyes steady and resolute. Across the room, Thomas Langford offered a subtle, dismissive shake of his head, as if Musk's self-assurance was merely a performance. Langford faced the judge. "Your Honor, let's bypass the theatrics and focus on the core matter at hand." He waved his hand toward the pile of papers resting on his desk. "The collection of evidence we have amassed is substantial. Mr. Musk's enterprises have consistently breached federal safety standards, financial transparency obligations, and environmental regulations. The evidence is clear and undeniable." He faced the jury, moving back and forth a bit, allowing the gravity of his words to linger in the air. "We're discussing serious violations. This is a matter of intentional neglect of federal law. The matter at hand for this court is straightforward. Should we permit billionaires to change the rules to suit their own interests? Should we hold them responsible, just as we do with every other enterprise in America?" Langford halted, glancing at Musk as though beckoning him to dispute the assertion. Musk remained unfazed. Judge Beckett inclined his body forward just a touch. "The prosecution has presented their opening argument, Mr. Musk. Feel free to reply." Musk straightened his jacket and moved ahead, a contemplative look on his face. "I appreciate your consideration, Your Honor." He faced the jury, his hands intertwined before him. "Mar Langford presents a persuasive argument," he stated, his tone calm and measured. "There's merely a single issue at hand. It is entirely incorrect." A soft whisper spread across the courtroom. Langford's jaw quivered slightly. Musk pointed to the pile of documents positioned before the prosecution. "What you see there is a collection of outdated policies being wielded as a barrier to progress. The assertion is that my company has breached safety regulations. What remains unsaid is that those regulations were crafted for vehicles conceived many decades in the past." He took a moment, allowing that to resonate. "It has been suggested that we failed to meet the necessary requirements. The existing regulations have not taken into consideration advancements like autonomous vehicles, spacecraft designed for human travel, or batteries capable of energizing an entire city block. We are in full compliance with the law. We are functioning beyond their limits." Judge Beckett squinted his eyes just a bit. "What lies beyond them?" Musk acknowledged with a nod. "Indeed, that is the core problem at hand. The purpose of the law is to safeguard the community. However, what occurs when regulations hinder advancement instead?" Langford sneered, "Advancing with purpose. That's quite a convenient point you've made, Mr. Musk. The reality is you overlooked federal oversight due to its inconvenience." He faced the judge. "Your Honor, I would like to submit Exhibit A for your consideration." Beckett acknowledged with a nod. "Continue." A vast screen illuminated, showcasing a page brimming with intricate text. Langford clicked a button on his remote, magnifying a selected excerpt. According to Langford, this is an internal email from a senior engineer at Tesla. It is explicitly noted that production on a particular model persisted even in the face of acknowledged software failures within the vehicle's autopilot system. He glanced back at Musk. "Your own team was aware of the dangers, yet you decided to press on regardless." Musk examined the screen intently, then gradually shook his head in disbelief. "Everything hinges on context, Mr. Langford." Langford folded his arms across his chest. "Kindly provide us with the necessary background information." Musk faced the jury once more. "Let's discuss that email. What are the software failures being discussed?" The calibration issues encountered were relatively minor within the context of a beta program. Challenges that were recognized, resolved, and enhanced. That's the essence of innovation. You experiment, you polish, you progress. Langford wore a sly grin. So you acknowledge that the failures were present? Musk's demeanor remained unchanged. Setbacks are present in every field, yet there's a distinction to be made. When a government agency errs, the error often becomes lost in a sea of documentation. When a business like mine errs, we rectify it swiftly, as that's the sole means of thriving in a field where every moment is crucial. A soft whisper swept across the crowd. Some of the jurors exchanged knowing glances. Judge Beckett drummed his pen lightly against the bench. Gentlemen, let's maintain our focus. Mr. Musk, are you refuting the claims that your company moved forward with production in spite of the concerns expressed by your own engineers? Musk locked eyes with the judge. I'm stating that those concerns were acknowledged, but I'll go even further. He glanced over at Langford. If you're going to utilize internal emails, why not present the entire thread? Did the engineering team verify that the issue was resolved prior to the release of any vehicle? Langford paused, if only for the briefest moment. Musk inclined his head. Oh, you didn't happen to bring that part, did you? Langford let out a quick, sharp breath through his nostrils. That doesn't matter. Musk arched an eyebrow. Was it really? The stillness in the room grew more profound. Even Judge Beckett appeared to be reevaluating the intricate interplay developing in front of him. Yet this was merely the start. Musk had more in store. A wave of tension swept across the courtroom. Thomas Langford's pause had not escaped attention. All eyes were on the scene. The jury, the gallery, and even Judge Beckett had witnessed it unfold. Musk had moved beyond mere self-defense. He was steering the story. Langford swiftly regained his composure, adjusting his tie with precision. Mr. Musk, you have a talent for diverting attention. I concede that point. However, let's delve into a topic that defies easy explanation. He faced his team. Present Exhibit B. The screen illuminated once more, showcasing a government audit report concerning Tesla's energy division. Crimson lines marked the page, drawing attention to numerous occasions where essential information was not shared with the authorities. Langford confronted the jury, his voice edged with intensity. This federal investigation reveals that Tesla Energy failed to disclose crucial performance data regarding solar panels, information that might have averted safety risks for numerous consumers. Mr. Musk, could you elaborate on your company's decision to prioritize secrecy instead of transparency? Musk remained unfazed. He inhaled deeply, offering a subtle nod, as though Langford had crafted the ideal setup for his reply. Glad to clarify, Musk remarked, moving ahead. His voice resonated with a calm clarity. The audit was carried out using a methodology that is entirely irrelevant to our technology. Langford let out a derisive laugh. Were the regulators mistaken then? Musk faced the jury. Allow me to express it like this. Picture a scenario where an individual attempts to evaluate your smartphone's battery performance with a method intended for assessing gasoline engines. Does that sound reasonable? A glimmer of acknowledgement passed over the faces of several jurors. Musk continued to push forward. The data that the government alleges we concealed was not obscured in any way. It was simply assessed in another way. Our solar panels operate in a manner that conventional energy audits are not designed to assess accurately. Rather than collaborating with us to enhance their practices, regulators chose to resort to allegations of wrongdoing against us. Langford tightened his jaw. That seems like a handy justification. Musk merely shrugged. That's not a justification. It is an undeniable truth. Do you want to know how I can demonstrate that? Langford remained silent, yet Musk was not inclined to seek approval. He faced his laptop, struck a few keys, and unveiled his own showcase. A fresh document appeared on the screen, a communication from the agency that Langford referenced. Musk gestured towards the text. This memo serves as a communication from the regulatory team responsible for the audit conducted. Take a look at that line. Judge Beckett shifted his glasses, casting a look at the screen. His lips parted gently as he spoke the words aloud. Given the distinctive characteristics of Tesla's energy output system, our existing evaluation model might not yield a precise assessment of compliance. The courtroom stood in hushed stillness. Musk redirected his attention to Langford. Your own evidence shows that your agency acknowledges its evaluation was ineffective for our systems. However, rather than adapting, they continued to assert claims of noncompliance. Langford's hands balled into fists, yet he managed to put on a smile. Mr. Musk, even if your statements hold validity, they certainly do. Langford brushed aside the interruption. You have yet to deliver the data that regulators requested. Regardless of the methods used for measurement, there existed a legal duty to adhere to compliance. Musk folded his arms and we followed suit. The issue lies not in our unwillingness to collaborate. The issue lies in your expectation for us to adhere to standards that are illogical for our technology. A gentle cough shattered the silence. Judge Beckett reclined in his chair, thoughtfully stroking his chin. We are Langford. Are you able to provide a reply to that? Langford's lips parted ever so slightly, yet for the first time that day, silence enveloped him. Musk let out a breath through his nostrils, tilting his head slightly. I interpret that as a negative response. A soft laughter echoed in the gallery, yet Musk remained expressionless. He had no intention of providing entertainment. He had come with a singular purpose, to emerge victorious. Yet the battle had only just begun. Langford was determined to make his final strike count. The stillness in the courtroom was palpable. Thomas Langford found himself trapped, fully aware of his predicament. The prosecution entered with the anticipation of a swift and clear triumph. Yet, for the first time, uncertainty lingered in the atmosphere. Langford cleared his throat, straightening his tie as he retreated to the prosecution table. His team averted their gaze. He had to take back the reins. Very well, Mr. Musk, Langford remarked, his tone sharpening once more. Your enjoyment has reached its peak. You've navigated the rules, manipulated language, and selectively highlighted facts. It's time to get serious. This situation transcends mere technological misconceptions. Your behavior reflects a consistent refusal to conform. He pivoted abruptly, snatching another paper from his desk and raising it high. Your Honor, I would like to present Exhibit C. Judge Beckett acknowledged with a nod. Continue. The screen behind Langford flickered once more, revealing a timeline chronicling Musk's previous legal confrontations with the government. Every entry featured a captivating headline. Legal action from the SEC regarding tweets about Tesla, alongside matters involving the NHTSA. Inquiry into autopilot accidents, workforce infractions, accusations at Tesla manufacturing site, and adherence to FAA regulations. Langford moved deliberately toward the jury, allowing the overwhelming volume of cases to convey their own significance. He gestured toward the screen and stated, "This is not evidence of a man being unjustly pursued. This is the account of an individual who defies convention. Whenever regulators seek to hold you accountable, you resist. You procrastinate. You shape the perceptions of the masses. So now you expect this court to accept that you're merely a misunderstood visionary, wronged by antiquated regulations?" Langford allowed the words to linger in the air before shifting his gaze to Musk. "Mr. Musk, if the system is indeed so flawed, what compels you to be the sole individual consistently challenging it?" The gallery whispered softly. Even Judge Beckett adjusted his posture slightly, observing Musk with keen interest. Musk took a breath, his demeanor remaining steady. He averted his gaze from the screen. He averted his gaze from Langford. Instead, he directed his attention squarely at the jury. "I understand," he said, his voice lowered, taking on a more intimate tone. "That list appears unfavorable, giving the impression that I'm a troublemaker, as if I'm just seeking conflict for the sake of it." He took a moment to reflect. "Let's analyze it step by step." He advanced toward the screen and indicated the first headline with a deliberate gesture. "What about the SEC case?" That had nothing to do with deception. It revolved around a tweet, just one tweet that they asserted misled investors, yet the stock price actually rose following my post. Who, precisely, suffered as a result? Musk moved on to the subsequent entry. "What about the investigation into autopilot by the NHTSA? All leading automotive brands have experienced recalls, software complications, and safety investigations. Yet, when it comes to Tesla, it transforms into a matter of national outrage. He descended the list. The grievances regarding labor? Are you aware of the number of fraudulent claims submitted against large corporations annually? Are you aware of the number of unions that attempt to leverage lawsuits? And yet, when it comes to my company, it's portrayed as evidence of some ethical shortcoming. Ultimately, Musk concluded his remarks regarding the SpaceX FAA conflict. He let out a quick breath, shaking his head in disbelief. This one right here is my absolute favorite. He faced the jury once more. We faced a setback in obtaining our launch license due to incomplete paperwork. Despite NASA, the organization responsible for sending humans into space, affirming that we were ready to proceed. So what do you think? Are we discussing safety or control here? Langford's jaw clenched. You seem to be sidestepping the issue at hand. Your tendency to challenge authority is quite evident. Musk emitted a humorless laugh. Indeed, it seems that those in charge often have a tendency to hinder progress. The atmosphere in the room grew increasingly charged. Judge Beckett leaned in, gaze fixed intently on Musk. Mr. Musk, do you imply that you think some regulations ought to be disregarded? Musk gave a slight shake of his head. Indeed not, Your Honor. Laws are designed to benefit the public, not to be subservient to it. The courtroom was enveloped in an eerie silence. Langford parted his lips, only to seal them again. He had unleashed all his might, yet Musk remained unyielding, more formidable, more astute, and entirely in command. However, what unfolded next would surprise even Musk. The gravity of Musk's statements lingered in the atmosphere. Judge Beckett remained silent. Langford remained still. The jury appeared to be enveloped in the atmosphere, their gazes darting between the prosecution's table and the individual who had just transformed their entire case into a matter of dominance rather than legality. For the first time since the trial commenced, Musk took a seat, not from a sense of defeat, but because he had expressed all that he intended to convey. At this moment, he found himself in a state of anticipation. Langford remained upright, releasing a slow breath through his nostrils. His hands clutched the edges of the podium, his knuckles white with tension. He understood the significance of the moment that had just unfolded. Musk had altered the responsibility of evidence. Now, rather than persuading the jury that Musk had violated the law, Langford needed to demonstrate that the laws truly held significance amidst innovation, and that was a far more challenging case to make. Judge Beckett cleared his throat, his tone deliberate. Mr. Langford, is there anything else you would like to add? Langford squared his shoulders. Indeed, Your Honor. He glanced back at Musk. You've skillfully shifted the focus of this trial to philosophy instead of accountability, but my intention isn't to engage in a discussion about government oversight. I am here to present the evidence. Langford seized yet another document from his desk. As we examine antiquated regulations, it's time to address an issue that is highly relevant today. The screen behind him shifted once more, now displaying a confidential Tesla engineering report, one that had only recently come to light through the process of discovery. The document included detailed analyses of a significant software update that impacted Tesla's full self-driving mode. Langford advanced with purpose. This report, Mr. Musk, was crafted by your engineers just 2 months prior, and it indicates that Tesla implemented a software update that notably changed how its self-driving AI handles data. However, there lies a challenge. With a swift click, he focused intently on a solitary paragraph. This document explicitly outlines that there existed a recognized risk, specifically a 1 in 10,000 probability, that the new system might lead a vehicle to misinterpret traffic signals in intricate urban settings. That risk, however minimal, was considered acceptable by Tesla, yet this report was never presented to the NHTSA. Langford faced Musk, his tone icy. Could you elaborate on that? The atmosphere in the gallery grew taut. The jury focused intently. Musk remained unfazed. That's simple, he remarked, as the risk was statistically insignificant. Langford arched an eyebrow. Not pertinent? Musk acknowledged with a nod. A probability of 1 in 10,000 does not imply a failure occurring every 10,000 miles. It signifies one possible anomaly for every 10,000 simulations, which, incidentally, are conducted under heightened stress conditions. Applying that same standard to human drivers would mean that no one could legally drive on the road. Langford's jaw quivered slightly. However, the NHTSA possesses a legal entitlement to that information. Musk inclined his head. Absolutely, we would have been happy to provide it had they requested it. Langford paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Musk forged ahead. The report you just presented was not concealed. An internal engineering memo was issued. Each year, we carry out thousands of these analyses. We share the findings that truly matter for consumer safety, rather than those that merely grab attention. He cast a fleeting look at the jury. That's the essence of genuine advancement. One potential failure in a controlled test shouldn't halt the entire system. Without such actions, aircraft would remain grounded, structures would never rise, and innovative treatments would fail to make their way to consumers. Judge Beckett let out a sharp breath, massaging his temple. Gentlemen, let's maintain our focus. Musk inclined his body slightly forward. I remain attentive, Your Honor, concentrated on the essentials. Langford began to speak, but Judge Beckett gestured for silence. That will be sufficient, Mr. Langford. His voice carried a resolute strength. Langford pivoted, taken by surprise. Your Honor. Beckett let out a soft sigh, his head shaking ever so slightly. I've reached my limit. The words resonated through the room with the force of a thunderclap. Langford tensed up. Musk remained still. Beckett took off his glasses and placed them carefully on the bench. He rubbed the bridge of his nose thoughtfully before raising his gaze. Mr. Langford, I hold the efforts of regulatory agencies in high regard. I hold the law in high regard, yet I also acknowledge the truth of the situation. The truth is that there is no evidence of any intention to deceive or evade compliance. Langford's lips opened slightly. His face rewarded him with a glance. Judge Beckett pressed on. This case was initiated based on the belief that Mr. Musk and his companies intentionally circumvented regulatory measures. However, what I've observed today suggests a different narrative. This indicates a situation where legal frameworks are finding it challenging to adapt to technological advancements. The gallery came alive. Musk stood motionless. Both he and Langford were aware of what lay ahead. The courtroom hummed with an electric blend of astonishment, skepticism, and an undercurrent of agitation. Judge Beckett's words struck with force, rippling through the gallery and leaving Langford motionless, his expression meticulously neutral. Yet the tension in his grip on the podium revealed his mounting irritation. Musk remained unresponsive. There was no necessity for him to do so. The moment the judge recognized the true matter at hand, victory was already his. Beckett let out a breath and readjusted his glasses, redirecting his focus to the prosecution. Mr. Langford, let's speak candidly. You entered with the belief that this would be an uncomplicated matter of regulatory noncompliance. However, what I observe today indicates a more profound concern, one that transcends Tesla, surpasses SpaceX, and extends beyond this courtroom. Langford has ultimately discovered his voice. Your Honor, while I acknowledge the rapid pace of technological advancement, it is important to remember that laws are in place for a purpose. As soon as we begin to bend the rules, Beckett interrupted him with a lifted hand. This is not a matter of exceptions. It's about grasping the boundaries of the existing framework. What I gathered from Mr. Musk today presents a valid challenge to our current approach to regulating industries that are in a state of constant flux. Langford attempted to speak once more, yet the judge continued without interruption. We exist in an era where autonomous vehicles, commercial space exploration, and advanced AI have transitioned from the realm of imagination to reality. Yet, we continue to implement regulatory structures that were crafted many years ago for sectors that were once predictable, stable, and gradual in their evolution. Once more, the courtroom descended into silence. Beckett leaned in, clasping his hands together. His voice had dropped in pitch, yet remained resolute. Allow me to clarify. I'm not suggesting that oversight isn't important. The manner in which we implement it must evolve. Langford shifted with a sense of unease. What implications does this hold for the case, Your Honor? Beckett acted without a moment's pause. Considering the information presented today, I cannot, in good conscience, make a ruling against Mr. Musk. The words resonated with the force of a gavel's impact. A shared breath of astonishment swept across the crowd. The reporters in the gallery hurried to jot down their observations. Langford turned ashen. The jury exchanged bewildered looks. Who is Musk? He finally shifted, a subtle inclination of his head, as though this was the conclusion he had anticipated from the very beginning. Judge Beckett pressed on, his tone firm and unwavering. The court concludes that there is insufficient evidence to suggest intentional avoidance of regulations. Although worries regarding compliance and oversight are legitimate, it is evident that numerous allegations against Mr. Musk's companies arise from an inability of antiquated policies to adapt to contemporary technology. Langford's hands tightened into fists. Your Honor, dismissing this case would establish a perilous precedent. Corporations are being given the power to choose which laws they adhere to. Beckett brought his gavel down with a decisive thud. The room shook violently. That will be all, Mr. Langford. His eyes narrowed just a bit. Your argument is misguided. The standard we establish today isn't focused on companies evading oversight. It's about authorities recognizing their limitations in navigating a changing environment. Langford's mouth parted, then closed again. He was out of options. Beckett shifted his gaze to Musk. Mr. Musk, you are hereby released from this case without any indications of misconduct. Nevertheless, I highly recommend collaborating with regulators in the future instead of engaging in confrontations that unfold in a courtroom setting. Musk nodded slowly. That seems reasonable. The judge faced the jury. I appreciate your dedication and effort. The court is now adjourned. The gavel fell once more, and in an instant it was finished. The prosecution table remained in a state of shocked stillness. Langford stood still for a moment, then gradually collected his papers, his face a mask of neutrality. He had lost. Meanwhile, Musk stood, buttoning his jacket. The media cameras focused intently on him, poised for a reaction, a victory speech, anything at all. Instead, he just shifted his gaze toward Langford. No hard feelings, Musk remarked with a nonchalant air. Langford took a deep breath through his nostrils, struggling to conceal his annoyance. With no further comment, Musk advanced to the courtroom doors, flinging them open and stepping into the blinding array of cameras awaiting him outside. Yet, beneath the surface, beyond the triumph, one truth emerged unmistakably. This was more than a victory for Musk. This marked a pivotal moment, forever altering the landscape of the system. As Elon Musk emerged from the courthouse, a throng of reporters rushed in, their cameras flashing and microphones thrust eagerly in his direction. Mr. Musk, how do you respond to the ruling? Do you believe this situation will prompt alterations in federal regulations? Did this outcome favor corporations or serve the interests of the public? Musk halted on the courthouse steps, surveying the throng of reporters. For a fleeting moment, his expression was a complete enigma. With a slight shrug, he remarked that this wasn't about winning. The moment when the present converges with what lies ahead. With that, he strode toward his car, surrounded by security, leaving the turmoil in his wake. In the courtroom, Thomas Langford remained still at the prosecution table, his fingers drumming absent-mindedly on the legal pad that had lost its significance. The courtroom had cleared swiftly, yet he remained still. As Judge Beckett collected his notes, his gaze drifted momentarily to the side. He observed Langford for a brief moment, then placed his pen aside. Mr. Langford? Langford raised his gaze. Indeed, Your Honor? Beckett observed him intently. You possess remarkable skills in the legal field. Your struggle was fierce. But consider this, were you truly engaging in the correct struggle? Langford's jaw tightened, yet he remained silent. There was no necessity for him to do so. He was already aware of the answer. The judge let out a weary sigh as he rose to his feet. The law ought to prioritize the needs of the people over historical precedents. He drummed his fingers lightly on the bench, a single tap echoing in the stillness. Keep that in mind. He turned and made his way to his chambers, leaving Langford behind, seated alone with a case that remained a mystery to him. In just a matter of hours, the ruling took center stage in the news cycle. All the prominent networks displayed urgent news alerts. Musk triumphs in a significant court ruling. Inquiries from the judge. Technology in the U.S. regulatory framework versus government. This case has the potential to reshape corporate law significantly. The present moment must align with our aspirations. The implications of Musk's court victory for what lies ahead. Reactions varied widely throughout the nation. Some referred to it as a perilous example to follow. The notion that the ultra-wealthy might circumvent regulations and evade scrutiny. Some considered it to be well past due. A crucial reminder for legislators who have lingered too long in attempts to regulate innovation rather than embracing it. In Washington, D.C., a group of congressional leaders convened an urgent meeting, deliberating on the necessity of new legislation to avert similar incidents in the future. In the heart of Silicon Valley, other tech leaders began to pay attention. Some hailed Musk's victory, viewing it as a protective barrier for their own enterprises. Some felt a sense of discomfort. I pondered, if someone like Musk could find himself in court due to antiquated regulations, what implications did that hold for them? It was undeniable that the terrain had transformed. In the stillness of the night, Musk found himself solitary in his office, gazing intently at a screen cluttered with reports, headlines, and legal analyses pertaining to the case. He was not engaging with them. He let out a slow breath, pivoting his chair to face the window. Beyond, the city sprawled infinitely, a tapestry of lights flickering against the shadowy skyline. He emerged victorious. Yet this was not the conclusion. This was merely the start. The future is always in motion, relentlessly advancing. This was fundamentally not a matter concerning Musk, Tesla, or regulatory issues. It was a clash of advancement against heritage, a struggle of creativity versus authority. Eventually, every system must come to a decision. Will it evolve, or will it be forgotten? If this narrative sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe for more in-depth explorations of power dynamics, technological advancements, and the conflicts that are molding our future. What are your thoughts? Did this signify a step forward or serve as a cautionary tale? We welcome your thoughts in the comments section below.